Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going way back to ancient China.
Always a good time to do that.
I know, right? We're talking about the Yellow Emperor's classic of internal medicine.
Classic.
It really is. This book is incredible, and today we're looking specifically at Chapter 71.
Oh, yeah. Chapter 71, that's a good one.
It's all about this fascinating concept called the 6 cycles of natural order.
Basically, it's like the Yellow Emperor himself sitting down with his physician, this guy Chibo, and trying to figure out, the secrets of the universe and how to stay healthy.
It's wild, right? Like how to stay in harmony with the world around us.
And how all these energies impact our well-being. Almost like a cosmic weather report for your health.
Okay, cosmic weather report. I've never heard it put that way before, but I kind of like it. So how does the system actually work? The chapter mentions these 6 governments that, rule over these energy cycles. What exactly are they?
We'll think of them as, distinct phases of energy. Each one is linked to specific elements and astrological signs. But it's more than just, symbolic associations, right?
Right.
They actually connect these elements to real, tangible forces.
Okay. Like what?
Like wind, heat, dryness, dampness, and cold. Each government is like a unique blend of these forces, so it creates this kind of dynamic energy signature.
So let me see if I'm getting this. If we have, a super windy and dry year, would that mean we're in a government that's influenced by, say, the middle element?
You got it. You're picking this up quickly.
Wow.
And the way they describe these energies in the book, it's so vivid. They talk about wind drumming, oppressive heat causing suffocation, and even grim and bitterly cold influences.
Oh, wow. I can almost feel the chill just hearing you say those words.
Right. So it's not just some abstract idea. They're talking about real, tangible forces that impact us.
Okay, that makes sense. But how did they keep track of all these shifting energies? It sounds incredibly complex, trying to figure out, which energy is dominant at any given time.
That's where it gets even more interesting.
Yeah.
They had this concept of cycles within cycles.
Okay, break that down for me.
So imagine seasons within seasons. How we have spring, summer, fall, winter?
Yeah, the basics.
Well, within each of those seasons, you have these subtler shifts happening. So it's the same with these governments. Each one is divided into 5 phases, each tied to one of the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth.
Wait, so you could have, a government, say, the greater yang, and then that's further defined by the specific phase it's in, like a greater metal phase or lesser water phase.
You got it. Exactly.
My brain's trying to wrap itself around all these layers.
I know, it is a layered system.
Mm-hmm.
But the ancient Chinese, they really saw these cycles as, the key to understanding not just the natural world, but also the patterns of health and disease in the human body.
Okay, so now we're getting to the good stuff. How did they connect these energies to actual health problems? Does the text actually give specific examples?
Oh, absolutely. It goes into detail about the specific diseases they believed were associated with each phase and element combination. So, for example, during a phase dominated by extreme cold, like a greater yang, greater Yu phase, Yu representing water people, might experience illnesses like muscle wasting or paralysis.
Oh, wow, that's intense. So it's almost like a predictive model saying, hey, in this kind of year, be prepared for these specific health challenges.
Exactly. That's the core idea. And what's really cool is Bo, he doesn't just stop at diagnosing the problem, right?
No. What does he do?
He actually offers solutions. He becomes like the ultimate ancient health guru. He advises the Yellow Emperor on how to harmonize with these prevailing energies.
Yeah.
Through diet and lifestyle choices.
So it's not just about passively accepting whatever the cosmic weather throws at you. It's about actively adapting to these larger cycles.
Yeah, exactly. Taking control of your health by understanding these rhythms.
I love that. All right, so spill the tea. What kind of advice does he give?
Well, for example, in a year dominated by cold and dampness,
you
might recommend incorporating warming, bitter foods and emphasizing, staying warm and dry. He also cautions against going to extremes. There's a great line in the text. Heat does not offend heat. Cold does not offend cold.
Ooh, I like that.
Right. Really emphasizing that middle path, that balance.
That makes so much sense. I can already see how this ancient wisdom could have some practical applications for us today. But how would people back then know which energies were coming? Did they just have to, guess? Or were there signs they could look for?
Oh, Bo is way ahead of his time.
Yeah.
He taught the Yellow Emperor how to observe natural phenomena to anticipate these shifting energies.
Wait, what? Give me an example.
He pointed to things like changes in the weather, the behavior of animals, even the color of dust.
Hold on, so they could look at like a dust cloud and be like, oh, looks like a wave of dampness is coming. Better stock up on ginger.
It might sound like something out of a fantasy novel,
It kind of does.
but they really believed these subtle signs. They held clues to the dominant forces at play. And remember, this wasn't just about predicting the weather. It was about predicting the potential health challenges that might come with it.
This is seriously blowing my mind. It's like a completely different way of looking at our relationship with the natural world
That's exactly it.
and how it impacts like everything, our well-being, our health, even maybe our moods. But before we go any further, I have to ask about something you mentioned earlier, those releases. What are those all about?
The releases. These are like the big dramatic moments, when these elemental energies reach their peak. They're like released, signifying this major shift in the energetic landscape.
Okay, now you have to give me an example. What does a release look and feel like according to the Yellow Emperor's classic?
Well, for instance, during the Earth release, they describe it as rock valley shocks, thunder resonates, and then great water follows. Or with the metal release, they say heaven clear, earth bright, and then killing chi arrives.
Whoa, killing ki. Hold up, that sounds kind of intense. What exactly is that?
I know killing chi sounds a little scary,
Just a tad.
but in this context, it actually represents a powerful force of transformation. Think of it like a clearing away of the old to make way for the new.
So during these releases, it's like this pent-up energy of an element that's finally discharged.
Exactly. And it can have these like really dramatic effects, not just on us, but on the natural world around us. Think floods, earthquakes, storms, you name it.
Okay, so it's not just about subtle shifts anymore. We're talking about big, dramatic changes, changes that can really shake things up, both in nature and in our health, right?
Absolutely. And the text even describes the Yellow Emperor's reaction to all of this. He's totally in awe of Chibo's insights and commands that this knowledge be carefully preserved, which, says a lot about the respect they had for this ancient wisdom.
It really does. It makes you wonder if, we've lost touch with some of that ancient wisdom. If we paid closer attention to those subtle signs of nature, could we actually gain a deeper understanding of our own well-being? Just like the Yellow Emperor.
That's a question worth pondering.
It is. In a world that often feels so disconnected from these natural rhythms, maybe there's something to be said for rediscovering this ancient way of seeing the world, this world where our health is inextricably linked to the energies that surround us.
I think so too. Welcome back to our deep dive into the 6 cycles of natural order.
I'm so ready to really unpack these governments we keep talking about. Last time you left me hanging with all this talk about cosmic weather reports and dramatic energy releases. Now I want to know how this all plays out in real life.
Okay, well, let's start with Greater Yang, the first of the 6 cycles. Think of it like that initial burst of energy in springtime, when everything starts to wake up after that long winter slumber. It's a really powerful force for change and renewal.
So Greater Yang is all about fresh starts and new beginnings.
Exactly. And in the Chinese system, it's associated with the astrological signs Chen and Shu, which are linked to the dragon and the dog.
Dragons and dogs, okay. That's an interesting combo. I'm always down for some animal symbolism, but how does that tie back to our health?
Well, remember how each government represents a unique blend of energies. In the case of Greater Yang, the dominant force is wind, with its stirring, uplifting, and sometimes even disruptive qualities.
So that feeling of spring fever, that urge to shake things up and start fresh, could that be the Greater Yang energy at work?
It very well could be. And that sense of things being a bit unsettled, a bit in flux, might explain why they associated things like dizziness, shaking, and even eye closure with his government. It's the energy is so dynamic that it can even momentarily disorient us.
I'm starting to see how these ancient metaphors, they actually connect to real life experiences, But let's get specific. If it's a Greater Yang year, what kind of actual health challenges should we be on the lookout for?
Well, it depends on the specific phase within the Greater Yang cycle. Remember, there are 5 phases within each government, each linked to one of the 5 elements.
Right. The seasons within seasons idea. So let's say it's a Greater Yang year, and we're in a phase dominated by the metal element. That would be Greater Yang, Greater Metal, right? What should we expect?
Exactly. And since metal is associated with dryness and wind, a Greater Yang, Greater Metal year might bring strong winds, really dry conditions, and potential health concerns like headaches, dry coughs, or even constipation.
It's fascinating how they connected these environmental influences to specific health patterns, dryness outside, dryness inside. It all kind of makes sense.
Right. It's all about recognizing these patterns and understanding how to adapt.
So what about a greater yang year dominated by water then? Would that be completely opposite?
It would be a very different experience for sure. That's greater yang, greater you, with you representing water. And remember, water is linked to cold and dampness. So during this type of year, people might experience extreme cold, leading to things like muscle aches, joint stiffness, and even what the text describes as muscle wasting and leg paralysis.
Yikes, that took a turn. Those sound like some serious health concerns.
It really highlights the importance of, understanding these cycles and learning how to work with them,
For sure. So what would be the ancient Chinese medicine equivalent of bundling up and drinking warm fluids during a greater yang, greater yu year? What would Qi Bo recommend?
Well, according to Kibo, in years dominated by cold and dampness, it's all about incorporating warming and drying foods and practices into your life. He might recommend things like bitter foods, which they believed had those drying and warming qualities, and he would advise against consuming too many cold or raw foods.
Okay, so it's like taking a proactive approach to your health, aligning your lifestyle with the energy of the season.
Exactly. And this same principle applies to all 6 governments, though the specific elements and associated health challenges will vary.
Got it. So we've covered greater yang, the energetic awakening, the time for new beginnings. What comes next in this cosmic dance?
Next, we transition into Yangming. This is a time of peak energy and intensity, like the height of summer. Think long sunny days, everything's in full bloom, almost a feeling of exuberance in the air.
That sounds like my kind of season. Bring on the sunshine.
It's definitely a vibrant time full of outward expression. And in this system, it's associated with the signs Mao and Yu, the rabbit and the rooster.
A rabbit and a rooster. That's an unexpected pairing. I'm picturing a very confused barnyard scene right now.
But remember, these animal pairings, they represent specific energetic qualities, right? So the rabbit, with its quickness and agility, might symbolize the dynamic, fast-moving nature of Yang Ming's energy. And the rooster, with its fiery colors and, tendency to crow about everything, could represent the heat and intensity associated with this cycle.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection. So if greater yang is like waking up from a long nap, Yang Ming is like that midday energy surge where you're firing on all cylinders.
That's a good way to put it. And just like the summer sun can be both life-giving and intense, Yang Ming's energy has this powerful duality, It's described as clear heat, its movements as urgent, and sometimes even violent.
That's a lot of energy swirling around. So what are the potential downsides of all this heat and intensity? Should we be worried about, heat stroke?
They didn't use that term specifically, but they did talk about fierce heat greatly moving, which could lead to things like high fevers, skin rashes, inflammation, and even sudden outbreaks of illness.
So it's like our internal thermostat is struggling to keep up with all that external heat and activity.
Exactly. It highlights the importance of finding balance.
Makes sense. So if we find ourselves in a Yang Ming year, what would be the ancient Chinese medicine approach to keeping cool and balanced?
Well, Qi Bo would probably advise incorporating cooling and moisturizing foods and practices to counteract that dryness and heat. Think cooling soups, fruits with high water content, and avoiding spicy or overly drying foods.
Okay, so I'm seeing a pattern here. It's all about aligning ourselves with the dominant energy of the cycle and finding ways to maintain balance. So we've got greater yang, the energetic awakening, and Yang Ming, the peak of intensity. What comes next?
We move into lesser yang, which marks the gradual decline of yang energy. Think late summer, when the days are still warm, but there's a hint of coolness in the air, a sense that things are starting to slow down.
Kind of like that bittersweet feeling when summer is coming to an end. Still enjoying the warmth, but you know that change is on the horizon.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it's reflected in the animal symbolism associated with lesser yang, yin and shen, the tiger and the monkey.
Okay, a tiger and monkey. I'm really intrigued by these animal pairings. What does this one tell us about the energy of lesser yang?
Well, the tiger, with its power and ferocity, could represent the lingering strength of yang energy, even as it begins to decline. And the monkey, with its adaptability and agility, might symbolize the need to adjust to this shifting energy landscape.
So it's like we're transitioning from that peak Yang Ming energy, but still carrying some of that momentum with us as we head into a more yang phase.
Exactly. And the text describes lesser yang's energy as wind drumming, with its stirring and breaking qualities. So while the intense heat of Yangming is fading, there's still a lot of movement and change happening.
Sounds like a recipe for, like, internal chaos. What kind of health challenges might we experience during this, like, transitional period?
Well, according to the Yellow Emperor's Classic, people might experience a mix of heat and cold symptoms during a lesser Yang year. Things like alternating chills and fever, headaches, digestive problems, and even emotional instability.
So it's like our bodies are trying to find their footing as the energy shifts from yang to yin, from external to internal. That makes sense. What would Chibo suggest we do to navigate this, like, energetic roller coaster?
He might emphasize the importance of finding balance between activity and rest during this time, making sure you're not overexerting yourself, but also not letting yourself become stagnant. He might also suggest incorporating foods and practices that promote both, like calming and warming, like light broths, cooked vegetables, and gentle movement like Tai Chi or Qigong.
It's all about finding that sweet spot, that middle ground between the extremes. That seems to be like a recurring theme here.
It's a fundamental principle of Chinese medicine. Harmony comes from balance.
So we've gone from the energetic awakening of greater yang to the peak intensity of Yangming, and now we're transitioning into the more inward energy of lesser yang. What comes next as we continue this journey through the 6 cycles?
Next, we move into greater yin, a time of increasing yin energy and a shift toward coolness and moisture. Think of it like early autumn when the days grow shorter, the air becomes crisp, and there's a sense of things slowing down.
Autumn. My favorite season. I love that feeling of cozy sweaters, crisp air, and colorful leaves.
It's definitely a time of beauty and transition. And in the Chinese system, greater yin is associated with the signs Chow and Wei, the ox and the sheep.
Okay, a sturdy ox and a gentle sheep. I'm really starting to appreciate how these animal pairings, they provide these, like, insights into the energy of each government.
They offer a really beautiful way to connect with these concepts. The ox, with its grounding and earthy nature, might symbolize like the stabilizing influence of yin energy. And the sheep, with its softness and vulnerability, could represent the need for nourishment and protection as the weather turns colder.
It's like nature is reminding us to slow down, turn inward, and, like, take care of ourselves as we head into the colder months.
Exactly. And that shift from outward to inward, from activity to rest, is reflected in the way the text describes greater yin's energy. Damp cold, with movements that are descending and condensing. It's like the energy of nature is turning inward, preparing for the winter ahead.
So, if the first 3 governments we talked about were all about, like, yang energy movement, heat, expansion, calm, greater yin marks a turning point, a shift toward yin's stillness, coolness, contraction. It sounds like a pretty significant transition.
It is, and it's reflected not only in nature, but also in our bodies.
So what kind of health challenges might we be more susceptible to during a greater yin year? I'm guessing it's less about heat stroke and more about, well, sniffles.
You're on the right track.
Yeah.
The text suggests that during a greater yin year, people might be more susceptible to colds, coughs, and other respiratory illnesses, as well as digestive issues related to dampness and cold, like bloating, diarrhea, or even edema.
So it's about protecting ourselves from the elements, both literally and energetically.
Exactly. And Shibo might advise people to wear warm clothing, avoid getting chilled, and consume warming foods and drinks, like soups, stews, and ginger tea. Practices like meditation and gentle stretching might also be recommended to promote relaxation and improve circulation.
It's like as the energy of nature turns inward, we need to focus on nurturing and protecting our own internal energy as well.
Precisely. It's all about aligning ourselves with the rhythms of nature and adapting our lifestyle to maintain balance and harmony.
Okay, this is all starting to make sense. So we've covered greater yang, yang-ming, lesser yang, and now greater yin. What comes next as we continue our exploration of the 6 cycles?
We move deeper into yin energy with lesser yin, a time of increasing cold and stillness. Imagine the depths of winter when the days are short, the nights are long, and nature seems to be in a deep slumber.
Okay, if greater yin is like curling up on the couch with a cozy blanket, lesser yin is like full-on hibernation mode. Lights out, fireplace going, completely enveloped in warmth and stillness.
That's a perfect image. And in this system, lesser yin is associated with the signs Zi and Wu, the rat and the horse.
A tiny, resourceful rat and a powerful, energetic horse. That's quite a contrast. How do those animals fit into the picture of, like, deep winter stillness?
Well, even in the depths of winter, there's still a spark of life, a potential for movement and change. The rat, with its ability to survive in even the harshest conditions, could represent that persistent spark. And the horse, with its strength and speed, might symbolize the potential for, sudden bursts of energy, even amidst the stillness.
So it's not about complete inactivity, but more about a focused inward energy, a time for quiet reflection and conservation.
Exactly. And the text reflects that duality in its description of lesser yin's energy. While it's primarily associated with cold and dampness, they also mention fierce heat and oppressive light as potential influences. So there's a tension there, a push and pull between these opposing forces.
It's like those winter days where it's freezing outside, but you're bundled up inside with a roaring fire. You're aware of the cold, but you're also generating your own warmth and light.
That's a great way to visualize it. And that tension between internal warmth and external cold is something they believe could impact our health during a lesser yin year.
So if we're experiencing that, internal, external tug of war, what kind of health challenges might arise during a lesser yin year?
Well, the text suggests that people might experience a mix of cold and heat symptoms, like alternating chills and fever, respiratory issues, urinary problems, and even emotional imbalances like anxiety and depression.
It sounds like our bodies are trying to find their, equilibrium amidst these shifting energies. So what would Chibo recommend we do to stay balanced during this time of year? More hot water bottles and fuzzy blankets?
He definitely advised staying warm and protected from the elements, but he'd also emphasize the importance of, nourishing the internal fire, both literally and metaphorically. He might recommend warming foods like soups and stews, incorporating warming spices like ginger and cinnamon, and practicing techniques like breathwork and meditation to cultivate inner peace and warmth.
So as the world outside grows colder and darker, we need to consciously nurture our own inner light and warmth. It's like tending to that inner fire so it can sustain us through the winter.
Exactly. And it's a beautiful reminder that our internal world is just as influenced by the external environment as our physical body.
We've made it through 5 of the 6 governments now. Greater Yang, Yang Ming, Lesser Yang, Greater Yin, and Lesser Yin. Just one more to go. What comes after this deep dive into winter's stillness?
We emerge into Juan, the final phase of the cycle. Think of it like late winter, when the first hints of spring are in the air, but the ground is still frozen. There's a sense of anticipation, a stirring of new life beneath the surface.
It's like that feeling when you can finally, smell spring in the air, but it's still a bit too chilly to put away your winter coat. You're ready for change, but you know it's not quite time yet.
A perfect analogy. And in this system, Guan is associated with the signs Sea and High, the snake, and the pig.
A snake shedding its skin and a pig rooting around for, whatever pigs root around for. I'm not sure I see the connection to late winter here.
Well, remember, each animal represents specific energetic qualities. The snake, with its ability to shed its skin and transform, could symbolize the process of renewal and rebirth that begins during Juan. And the pig, with its connection to the earth and its focus on nourishment, might represent the need to rebuild and replenish after the long winter months.
So even though it's still cold and quiet on the surface, there's a sense of movement and change happening beneath the surface, like those early spring bulbs pushing up through the frozen ground, preparing to burst into bloom.
Exactly. And that dynamic is reflected in the way the text describes Juan's energy. It's a mix of cold, warmth, and movement, wind-clear heat, and cold rain wind. It's like the energy of nature is starting to awaken, but it's still a bit hesitant, a bit unpredictable.
It sounds like those early spring days where you get a glimpse of sunshine 1 minute and a blast of cold wind the next. You never know what to expect.
Precisely. And that unpredictable nature of the energy is something they believed could impact our health during a Juan year.
So if it's a time of transition, a blend of winter's cold and spring's emergence, what kind of health challenges might we experience during a Juan year?
The text suggests that people might experience a mix of lingering cold and dampness issues from winter, like coughs, congestion, and joint pain. But they might also start to see signs of heat and inflammation, like skin rashes, allergies, and digestive upset. It's like the body is trying to adjust to these changing energies, but isn't quite there yet.
It sounds like Juan is a bit of a balancing act, trying to support our bodies as they transition from winter to spring.
Exactly. And Chibo might offer advice tailored to this unique energetic landscape. He might recommend gradually incorporating lighter foods and more movement into the diet and lifestyle as the weather warms up, while still taking care to protect oneself from the lingering cold.
So it's about easing into spring, both physically and energetically, respecting the natural pace of change.
Precisely. And that sensitivity to the subtle shifts in nature is a key theme throughout the entire six-cycle system.
Okay, we're back and ready for the final part of our deep dive into the 6 cycles of natural order. We've talked about those big energy cycles, the 6 governments, but now I want to really zoom in on those 5 phases within each one. You've mentioned it's like a tapestry of energetic influences. Help me understand how this all weaves together.
It is a beautiful analogy. Think of the 6 governments as like the broad strokes,
Yeah.
the big seasonal changes we all experience. But just like spring can have moments of intense growth and sudden storms, each government has these more nuanced shifts happening within it, and that's where the 5 phases come in.
Okay, so remind me, what are those 5 phases again, and why are they so important in this system?
Well, the 5 phases are wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. But they're not just like literal elements, they're more like energetic archetypes. Each one represents a unique set of qualities and characteristics.
So when we talk about, say, like a wood phase, we're not talking about lumberjacks and forests.
Not exactly. We're talking about the energetic essence of wood. Its upward moving, expansive nature. Its association with growth, new beginnings, and a kind of vibrant, almost restless energy.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. So each of these 5 phases basically adds its own, like, flavor to the government it's in, creating this much more complex, nuanced energy profile.
That's it. It's like adding different spices to a dish.
Yeah.
Each one enhances the overall flavor in a unique way.
I love that analogy. Okay, so can we get into some, like, concrete examples now? Let's take greater yang again, that burst of springtime energy. What would a greater yang wood phase look and feel like, and like how would it impact us?
Good example. So greater yang is already about that initial surge of energy, everything waking up after a long sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now layer on the expansive, growth-oriented energy of wood, and you get a time of rapid change, intense activity, almost a feeling of everything happening all at once. Imagine a forest in spring, everything bursting into life, all those plants competing for sunlight.
Wow, that sounds a little overwhelming, honestly. Like too much energy, too much happening.
It can be. And that might explain why they associated this particular phase with conditions like headaches, irritability, even muscle tension, that feeling of being wound a little too tight,
I can see that. You're like a plant trying to grow too fast, straining to reach the light.
So how would someone navigate a greater yang wood phase in a healthy way? What would Chierbo recommend?
He'd probably suggest finding ways to channel that excess energy in productive ways. So through exercise, creative outlets, even just spending time in nature. It's about working with the energy, not against it. Okay, that makes sense. Let's try another combo. How about a lesser yin earth phase? We talked about lesser yin being like the deep stillness of winter. What happens when you combine that with earth energy?
Ooh, interesting choice. So lesser yin is all about turning inward, conserving energy, slowing down. And earth energy is all about stability, grounding, nourishment. Combine those and you get a phase where the focus is on rest, reflection, replenishing your resources. Think of a seed buried deep in the earth during winter, waiting for the right moment to sprout.
That sounds pretty peaceful, honestly. Like a much-needed break from all that greater yang wood intensity. But I'm guessing even a phase this chill could have its challenges, right?
Oh, of course. Every phase has its own unique set of opportunities and challenges. A lesser yin, earth phase, might bring up feelings of sluggishness, heaviness, even stagnation. It's like the energy is so inward focused that it becomes a bit stuck.
So you're that seed that's gotten a little too comfortable underground and isn't quite ready to face the world above.
Exactly. And in this case, Qi Bo might suggest incorporating gentle movement, warming foods, things to help stimulate circulation and prevent that stagnation from turning into something more serious.
This is so interesting. It seems like each of these phase combinations really does create like its own energetic signature, its own rhythm to dance to,
And that's what's so brilliant about this system. It acknowledges the complexity of nature, how these energies are always interacting and influencing each other, creating this beautiful dance of, yin and yang, expansion and contraction.
Okay, I have to ask about one more combination. Yang Ming, fire phase.
Yeah.
Yang Ming was that peak summertime energy, all about outward expression and intensity. So what happens when you add the element of fire to that mix?
Get ready for some fireworks. Yang Ming fires like peak performance, outward expression, passion, excitement. Think of a bonfire, blazing brightly, radiating warmth and light. It's a powerful energy that can be incredibly creative and inspiring.
So this is like the go big or go home phase of the year. I can dig it. But I'm sensing a but coming here. What's the catch with all this fire energy?
Well, just like a bonfire can burn out of control, This unrestrained energy can lead to burnout, inflammation, even emotional outbursts if it's not managed wisely.
So it's a high risk, high reward kind of energy. How do we harness that Yang Ming fire energy without getting burned?
Kibo, he would probably emphasize balance, as always. He might suggest cooling foods, calming practices like meditation, and finding healthy outlets for that passionate energy, whether it's through physical activity, creative expression, or connecting with loved ones. It's about making that fire work for you, not against you.
This has been an incredible journey through the ancient Chinese understanding of health and the natural world. It's amazing to see how these 6 governments and 5 phases can act as a framework for understanding not only the seasons, but also the energy cycles within our own bodies.
It's such a beautiful system, isn't it? And while the language and concepts might feel a bit foreign to us sometimes, the underlying wisdom feels incredibly relevant, even today.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners? Should we all become experts in ancient Chinese astrology and start planning our lives around the 6 cycles of natural order?
I don't think that's necessary, but the key is to pay attention. Notice those subtle signs of nature, both within yourself and in the world around you. How do the changing seasons impact your energy levels, your mood, your overall well-being?
It's like tuning into that cosmic weather report we talked about, but on a more personal, intuitive level.
Exactly. And as you become more attuned to those energetic shifts, you can make choices that support your health and well-being. Choose foods that are in harmony with the season. Engage in activities that help you find balance. Create a lifestyle that nourishes your mind, body, and spirit.
It's a beautiful reminder that we're part of something much bigger than ourselves, this intricate web of energy and connection. And if we can learn to, really listen to those whispers of nature, both within us and around us, we might just unlock some really profound wisdom about how to live a more balanced and fulfilling life.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the 6 cycles of natural order. It's been a pleasure exploring this ancient wisdom with you.
And to our listeners, remember, this isn't the end. It's just the beginning of a lifelong journey of discovery. So stay curious, stay open to new possibilities, and keep diving deep.